Good evening to all when you are virtually present here. Myself, myself, Dodungoda Patil, Secretary of Sikasa ICA Bengaluru. I heartily welcome you one and all live webcast on recap discussion on November 2020 RTP and Enterprise Information System and Strategic Management. Now I would like to welcome our Sikasa Chairman, C.A. Panindra Gupta sir. Welcome to the session. Yes.
Thank you, Patil.
This speaker is a dynamic chartered accountant, is a certified information system auditor, is a certified system information system manager, is a part of blockchain core committee ICAI. His area of specialization includes governance risk compliances, that is GRC, enterprise management, project management, designing and implementation of regulation compliances framework, IT governance and management audits, Forex, DP, and anti-money laundering and BCP operational risk, and is subject matter of expert in the field of business and IT controls and forensic audit and analytics. Anand sir is a managing partner at Anand Jangid and Associates, an organization with a focus in the area of blockchain, forensic audit, artificial intelligence, and fraud analytics for audit and finance. Sir was the part of risk management team in Goldman Sachs. The prior to Goldman Sachs, he was the ES Consulting Groups at Infosys Technologies Limited, Bengaluru. Here, he involves in the development of regulatory compliances framework, various compliances like SOX and SOX, etc., and was the part of team developing solutions and base to accord implementation. His responsibility includes working with the SYNC with a project in Infosys Consulting Dallas. He has been involved in the enterprise risk management implementation and IT industry, many international projects at USA, UK, Japan, China, and other countries. He is a visiting faculty for IIM Bengaluru, teaching IS information system audits and fraud analytics. He is a speaker at North America CACS and Euro CACS ISACA Pacific conferences. And he is a visiting faculty, is a regular visiting faculty for ISACA Bengaluru and ICI as well. He has presented various papers on enterprise risk management, IT controls, blockchain, artificial intelligence. He has been involved in many educational and research managements for Infosys consulting groups. He has have conducted many CPE, continuous professional education for our members, ISACA as well ICI, and he was the member of subcommittee of information technology of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and ISACA Bangalore as well, and is an active member of Young India. And with his short introduction, I would like to welcome our today's speaker and dynamic and young energetic chartered accountant, our CA
Thank you.
Anand Jangid sir. And I would like to hand over to our Sikasa chairman sir.
Thanks, Patil.
Yes sir.
Happy evening and a warm welcome to all the students who are virtually attending today's session, recap, discussion on November 2020 RTP, EIS and SM subjects. So on behalf of Sikasa Bengaluru and Bangalore branch, I take this opportunity to welcome our today's speaker, CA Anand P Jangid sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So whenever we invite Anand sir for any program, he is more than willing to come and take up the sessions at institute, be it for members or students. This shows Anand sir's interest and dedication to serve our profession. Thank you so much once again, sir, for accepting our invitation, and welcome, sir, once again.
Thank you, sir.
So before we hand over the session, a quick update. So since today, 30th September, so is the last date for filing GSTR 9 and 9C for assessment year 18 and 19. It got postponed till 31st October. And also income tax returns due date for assessment year 1920. So today is the last date and it got postponed till 30th November. And due to COVID, all the due dates are getting extended. But still, all the articles, students are they should write their exam, and their principals will be having their own sweet time to complete, because they will get everything will be at the this one what during season itself, November only, and November only exams, everything. So hope everything will go well for all the students as well as members. And over to Anand P Jangid sir for today's session.
Thank you, Parinder sir. Thank you. Really appreciate, and thank you, Patil sir, for a nice introduction. So, as Parinder sir said, I am always ready for Sikasa program, because just like Dr. Gundu Patil sir is there, I used to be also a Sikasa volunteer, and during my CA student time, and I know how much effort it goes in arranging all these things. So I am always there for it, and I always say one of the things that. How I got into this whole IS field, which I am actually in, and I'm thankful for Sikasa conference, because just after clearing my foundation examination, I attended one conference, annual student conference in Chennai, and there was the first time I heard there is something called CISA. Before that, I never even know what is CISA is, and then it actually introduced me. So it's always good to be at the student level and interact it, and I think. They are much more, I would say, capable than our members many times to observe and go for areas. The moment, usually I say always this one, the moment CA students become CAs, they become lazy. Till the time they are CA students, they're very hardworking. But then we change it up. Anyway, most of all, very welcome to this session, and it's really good to be there. And as the name suggests, I was actually going through all the other faculties, so they have actually covered a lot of things. Which is very important from examination perspective. So I will not cover those part. I would highly recommend all of our, people who are attending the sessions or the YouTube video, they should please, go through all the other faculties, because they have very nicely covered what are the things as a student you should do it. Because I was an examiner also, the moment you clear your CA, the first thing you want to become is examiner. Like, why should only you suffer? You should make some other people also suffer. So I was examiner for a brief time, and I know whatever they have told is very important points, and it's very important for all of us that we should be knowing about that. So I would actually focus, how I have structured it is that this time which we have, around 2 hours of time, we should very well use it for two purposes. First, understand the specific of the subject, that how we should approach this examination. And it's very nicely, I would really congratulate Sikasa team for coming out with this term recap. Recaps are very important. Like, I don't know how many of you have seen these soap operas like Kyuki Saas Bhi Bahu Thi and all the thing. Before every episode, they will have a recap, because otherwise we will forget everything what has come. And recap is always very important in terms of understanding what is the expectations are. So I would like to say this subject which is there, and it has come, the new scheme. I am not sure how many of you are, someone from old scheme who have seen this new subject of EIS. The expectation is very high from the institute. They are actually put all the final material of ISCA, which used to be earlier subject of final, has been moved to EIS. So actually, as a student, you are studying very, I would say, is much more than what is expected for a inter student, I would say, right now. And good evening, Gajendra. Good evening, Deva. Great. And as you guys are, seeing, this subject has to be approached in a little different way. It is neither a technical subject. I would say it is business technical, because you need to have a good understanding of business as well as that. So the idea is that we will try to tackle this in terms of going through first what is covering the subject, EIS and then SM. And both of them are two different animals. The way we answer the questions of EIS is different than the way we would like to answer the questions of SM. Strategic management is a management subject. The expectations is different of the examiners from students. On the same side, the EIS, Enterprise Information System, see the word itself, it's very interesting. We should actually appreciate what our institute is thinking. You need to understand, I would say you would be able to appreciate this subject more if I give you some statistics. Then you will know, okay, why this subject is there. Usually we used to always, when IT subject comes, we say, oh, why this IT subject? Why institute is trying to insist on that? But there is a reason behind that. And the expectation is very interesting. The reason behind that, friends, is something which all of us should know. And I'm actually trying to give a little bit of overview of this separately before I start the discussion of the thing. So what is this thing? Why we should be aware of that? Now, I don't sure how many of you know that we are in something what we call as the fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution, friends, happened when we used to have all these steam engines in 1861, and all that time was the first time when we used to have, the talk going on that, okay, this is the industrial revolution which is happening. And that industrial revolution was really, transformed the businesses of that time badly in a very different way. A lot of people have to leave jobs, new kind of work come, machines change, everything happened, and it was a very different time. And then came the second industrial revolution, what we call it as. And the second industrial revolution, friends, was what we call it, in, I'm sure you've heard about this also from many of the people, was the time of 1930s when electrical engines were everywhere. And if you know the electrical engine, I'm not sure anyone has seen this movie. It's a very interesting movie by Charlie Chaplin called The Modern Times. If anyone has seen a chance of this, you will understand what I'm trying to say, because in 1930 that movie came and it was shown as what we call it as modern times. So people said, okay, how modern? What is this modern in this one? And this modern time, friends, was in a very, very different way. The whole understanding there was that this is the time when everything is changing, and this is how it is going to, change our working, our lives, and all the things. And from that time, that was called as the second industrial revolution. The third industrial revolution, which we call it, it came in the 1970s when computerization happened and all the things. Now computerization happened, it was good, it changed a lot of things. I was listening to one very interesting topic or discussion which was there by our Mr. Ramesh, who is the head of Deloitte in India. He actually gave a very interesting talk at Bombay Chartered Accountants Society, and the talk was something like this. He said that if you compare two industry, okay, and the two industry we are talking about is, first, on one side you take the automobile industry, and second, if you take the industry which we call it as, I'm not sure if you've heard about, let's say, IBM representing the computing industries. The kind of advancement, friends, which has happened in this IT environment, if you compare it in that same way, what would have happened? It basically means that in the difference of how Lenovo and I'm just kidding, IBM and other things have done, it would basically means that a car of what we call it as, let's say, something like Volkswagen would travel around the world at 1 liter of petrol. That kind of efficiency was brought in terms of dealing with this. Now, these are the things which are basically changing a lot of things around us, and our institute also understand that, and that's the reason you should actually not ignore this. Sometimes we think, okay, this is only 50 marks, but that 50 marks is going to be very important as we move forward, because what happens here is this area or that discussion would be very important for us from a perspective of understanding what is going to come and how it is going to impact us. And that is the reason, if you see, earlier it was called as IT subject, but our institute changed it and said, no, this is not IT subject now, it is enterprise information system. And they would like us to understand all this thing in detail, saying that, okay, you are telling, okay, all these things has happened, but why it is trying to change us? What are the things which we need to understand, and what is the impact it is happening? So this is what is being talked about from the perspective of the third industrial revolution. And I'm just sharing my screen because I'll be actually having PDFs, PPTs, and other things. Multiple things are there, so I'll be jumping between things. And feel free. I'll be showing you some stuff there, here, and there. So here is this. I'm just trying to show the slide. This is the slide I'm just talking about: the first industrial revolution, the second industrial revolution, the third industrial revolution, and today, post around net, we have come to the fourth industrial revolution, where businesses are changing. Now, the question our students will ask you: so why Anand sir is talking about all these things when we just came to know about EIS? Now, that is very important. If you remember, in your EIS, we have a topic also which is there, which says your emerging technologies, right? And that emerging technologies we need to understand in the right perspective out there. And we need to know what is the expectation there from the examiners, so that we are on the right path in terms of dealing with this. So this is what I was telling you about the first, second, third, and we are right now in the fourth industrial revolution. Now, moving forward, how does it impact us? So it impacts us that if we don't understand all these technologies well, we will be in a problem. And who are the people who will be in problem? We chartered accountant. I'll tell you why. There is a reason for that. We are telling you this. I'm not sure how many of you read a very interesting, material. If you get a chance, you should go through this report called "Future of Job Report." Okay, this report is by what we call it as. I'm just sharing my screen, and this is what you should actually. It's a free report from World Economic Forum, so it's not like some here, there, some someone just thought of something and came out. And this is a report which I was talking about. This is a very interesting report. You should read about this, because what they are talking about is what are the skills which will be required. All of you are young right now, and next, let's say next 3 to 4 years, you would be in the workforce. That is what we are talking about, 2023-24. And after that, you want to build, you will start your career, and then you'll go a long way. Now, when we have all these things happening, don't you think you would like to know what kind of future do we have? And that is what I want to show. Now, this is what they are telling you. You should read the whole report, but I'm just giving you a very quick summary of the report. And it says this kind of roles, stable roles, they are going to be there for a long time. Managing directors, general managers, human resource will not go away, financial and investment advisors, and all the things. But there are some new roles which has come: data analyst, big data, digital transformation specialist, new technology specialist, blah, blah, blah. And can you see this redundant role? I hope you know the term redundant role means what. These are the roles which are going to go for downsizing. When we see the word downsizing, it is a nice way of that you don't require them too much. And if you see there, what are the things which we see there? Can you see accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll? That is going out. And can you see something on accountant and auditors? It's actually happening. Whether we like it or not, these are the kind of things which are impacting us. And this is what World Economic Forum is saying, not for me, not for you. It is telling for all of us. And they are saying that these are the kind of jobs which are going to go away. And you should read this report, because all of you are invested a lot of time and effort in terms of coming forward and trying to do one of the toughest course which is there, right? So then how does it impact us? What is the institute thought process of that? So what institute is thinking is, why don't we catch you young? So catching you young is what institute is doing. So let's give our students, all of you are our future chartered accountants, can we give them a kind of test of what is going to come from enterprise information system? Just maybe 50 marks, no problem. You have ITT, you have other things. So they have given 50 marks, but the content is very high. And I'll actually take you through the subject, before I even jump into what is there in our, what we call it as, RTP. Let me take you to the subject so that you understand the expectations which are there. Now, there are some very basic things which I would like to talk right now. And why I say this is very basic thing, many students do this silly mistakes, very, very silly mistake. And I am sure, if you attend the other sessions which are there, you will understand what I'm trying to say. Other faculties have already talked about that. And this is why I would like to discuss that one with you once again. I just kept a, kind of whiteboard so that we all can see this. The couple of mistakes which we are doing. See, EIS is a subject, first and foremost point, where the expectation, a lot of time has been told that you have to write to the point answers. But it is not correct. This is a misconception. You have to have every question which has to be having what we call it as, it has to have a structure, just like we call introduction, content, and all things. Many times students are doing, they don't understand what is the expectation is going to be there, because ultimately it's just 40 marks. You have 10 marks of objective type MCQs which are there. And that is something which we take it up for granted. But what happens is, and you can see the last 2 attempts paper. We are now not counting the May attempt. So I'm talking about the last May and last November. If you see, you will notice one very interesting thing. The way MCQs are coming, you can't predict it. It is just like they are doing ini mini mina mo, opening one of the page, and from that page they just start saying, okay, this is something which you draft a question from. So the key thing which we need to understand here is, first and foremost, the structures of answers. I'm sorry for the bad handwriting. This is what we tell it up. What do I mean by structure of the thing? See, your presentations of ideas has to clearly come. Many a time what we do is we just just bring it out that okay, this is the answer, and we just put it up there. We don't understand. I can tell you, just open the paper of your EIS last time and other. When you see the questions, you will be seeing even the RTP questions. They're like, there is no direct, it's all application of knowledge. You have to understand the topic very clearly, and I'm telling you that the expectations looks like even the final students what they are studying you should be knowing and then taking it forward. So that is what is the part, first thing you should know. And I hope you know about the basic things like using blue pen instead of only black pen instead of blue pen. And the third point, which is that every answer should start from new page. These are all taken for granted. But one thing which many people do a very big mistakes and they have lost mark, which I have seen it myself when I was examiner, is use of pencil in flowchart. Flowcharts. I hope you know flowcharts are very important point. Flowcharts are coming. We have seen a lot of examples of that. And flowcharts, many of the students have done this, I would say not goof up, it is a blunder. The blunder is using pencil to draw flowchart. I'm not sure how many of you have done it, but if you use pencil for flowchart, you will get 0 marks. No marks are allocated for anything which is done by pencil. So this is one of the very important thing I would like to see, because I've seen cases where the whole answer was correct, but the head examiner says you can't give any marks to that person, because as per the policies of our institute examination policy, we are not supposed to give any marks, anything which is given with pencil. So please note this part important. These are like major. I'm again telling you, I'm not going to the common issues because it has been already covered by many of the faculties. Please go through all the presentations on this series, on the recap series. You will understand what I'm trying to say. And that is what we should be aware of. Okay, friends? Now, moving forward. The next part which we need to understand is I will now take you through the coverage of this subject so that we know what is expected and how we do that. And I'm sure all of you have gone through your EIS and all things. Now, I have a very big, I would say, challenge which I see from students. You know, most of the time we go for something which is a summary of the paper, both for strategic management as well as EIS. I am telling you, please, friends, don't do this. If you are doing this, you are actually doing more harm to yourself and doing it. Because what is happening is, as you are aware of that, our institute wants you to come out of this thought process of quick fix, which we call it quick fix is nothing but some summary notes and all things. They would like you to basically understand clearly that, okay, this is what is being covered and this is the subject which is there and the students knows everything. And that's why we have objective type question. And I told you, the question will see it in RTP. You will understand that, oh, this is not as easy as it looked like. And for the first time reading, it becomes very, tough for any students. Okay. So this is what we need to look into. So here I would just try to tell you about all the chapters. We have, literally speaking, we have very less, chapter. Okay. We have totally 5 chapters. But what is covered in the 5 chapters, that is something which is very important. The first and foremost, let us just go to the syllabus, is your ABP, which we call it as, it is not Anand Bajar Patrika. ABP is also a news channel, but it is automated business process. Just try to see this part. It's very interesting. The first topic is all about that. Do you have a good understanding of business processes, risk, and controls? Now, I hope you know risk and controls is coming from where? From IFCs. For every audit we do now, for any corporate or anything, if internal financial controls are there, you need to have a good understanding of that. So I would like to tell you something which is very interesting here and which we can see that we have at first thing which is coming to our mind here is what we call it as the business processes, benefit and risk and control. So do we have a good understanding of that? The second thing is diagrammatic representation of business process using flowchart. Now, flowchart is I would say it's a very interesting area. Why we should require to have this understanding of flowchart? The reason is that examiner want to know whether you have a structured thinking on a business process. Now, I just wanted to tell you something very interesting. One of my job, one of the company I work for is Infosys, and Infosys employs close to around, when I was there, around 5,000 chartered accountants. That's a huge number. 5,000 is a big number, right? Why do they require so many chartered accountants? Because they think we have a very good understanding of business processes. And whenever they are developing any new system, ERP implementation, core banking, Finacle implementation, they require chartered accountant. So there is a requirement that can we make a flowchart? And even in the flowchart, we need to have a good understanding of what type of flowchart are we talking about. There are two main categories of flowchart in your thing, which has to become as practical. There are theoretically, we have data flow diagram, we have business flowcharts and other things. But what you do is what we call as our business process flowchart and swim lane flowchart. Swim lane flowcharts are very interesting thing, because swim lane flowcharts it will tell you that what is the process to be done by whom. There will be actor and there will be a action by that actor. So let's say procure to pay. Who will do what in procure to pay? So all these things are very important. And if you see here, I always says that our institute always loves us a lot. So the same thing they would repeat multiple times. So enterprise business processes are there. So now we have to first understand what is this enterprise business processes. What are the different types of processes, like procure to pay, which is nothing but purchase process. Order to cash, which is the sales process. How inventory cycle works. How many of you have heard about this term hire to retire? Hire to retire, we all know. It is nothing but the whole payroll, what we call it as your HR functions. Supply chain, how I'm putting it up, fixed assets. All these things has been taken. But it is not only there that you should know about the process. You should know, very importantly, the risk and control in the process. That is what is being expected out here. The risk and control. Now, friends, I have been telling this every time. Happy morning, Mohammed. And okay, a lot of people have wished, very good evening and happy evening. So what happens, friends, is I would like you to remember that the expectation is you should know what is the risk and controls. And again, I'm telling you, risk and controls, if you know the definition, it makes your life very easy, because fundamentally it doesn't change. And you have to be smart. You know why you have to be smart? Because if you've gone through this ABP process, the ABP, you know that if you know one of the risk and control well, for let's say procure to pay, you can use this understanding everywhere. So it is more or less the risk and controls are same, like unauthorized access and all the things. These are the things which are there, and they have been divided. The controls have been also divided between automated and manual control. So we should have a good understanding of this, and then you are all set. Okay. Then comes, friends, what we call it as your applicable regulatory compliance requirement, which means your IT Act 2000, and there is some points which are very interesting. And why does our institute wants you to know that? Because there have been a lot of cases. I hope you know nowadays there are cases happening where free boarding and lodging for a chartered accountant. You don't want free boarding and lodging for yourself when you become a chartered accountant. And that's why they would like you to know that, okay, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And there are laws, like I'm not sure if you have read SPDI in 43A. There is a section 43A. Do you have to remember the section? Not required. But you need to know that there is a kind of provision which is there. Now, this is what you should know. Whenever you are reading that law subject from EIS perspective, always remember the expectation is not that you should remember all the section. You should just know what is the main crux of that point. So the questions are actually on that. So SPDI means sensitive personal data and information. See, if I know everything about you, don't you think it will become a big problem? And that's the reason companies like Google, Yahoo and all things, they're capturing so much of data about us. So to make sure that this doesn't happen, there is a kind of content in your material where we talk about more from the perspective of, okay, how can we basically make sure that there is a proper process of capturing this SPDI, like for your phone number, date of birth, address, these are all SPDI. So if I'm capturing it, how I'm capturing it, how I'm storing it, and how I'm disposing it of, everything has to be looked into that. And if there are offenses, there are a lot of penalties, and there are very interesting penalties. There are something that if you do it once, this is the punishment. If you do it twice, this is the punishment. So I don't know who will do it twice. If it's like one time you're, gone, then it is basically covered. So automated business process is, I would say, your first basic chapter, which is more of introduction to EIS, what we call as enterprise base or business processes, because based on the business processes, you will be making your information systems. So I hope you understood. That is the expectation. If there is any specific questions in that one, feel free to ask me that questions, and I can actually, more than happy to cover it up. We'll go into the the RTP, the coverage little later. Let us first understand what is there in from a perspective of our subject. Okay, coming to the second one, financial and accounting system. Now, financial and accounting system, friends, this part is something which is very important in my thing. I think chapter 1 to 3 are the crux of most of questions which comes, and there are going to be chapter 5 is also very important, but more from a perspective of 1 2 3 4 covers everything what you require. Chapter 5 is more of content on banking, but if you see 1 2 3 4, these are all interrelated component which is there, and that is why we should be aware of that. So in chapter 2, what of module 2, what we have is we have all this concept of ERP, SAP, Oracle. How does it work? All of you in the future, when you go for an audit and all thing, you will find we are working in an SAP environment and all the thing. And these are called as integrated system, because all the things, they have single database, they have all the process into the one place and all thing. But there are also non-integrated system where you have different systems for different use. For HR it is different, for process it is different, for finance it is different, for production it is different, and all that kind of stuff. Now in chapter 2 also we have again the business process module. A little bit of things comes, the flow charts are there which has to be looked into. We should be knowing about them. Then we have a very interesting concept of reporting systems and MIS. Now friends, I'll tell you one very interesting thing here which I would like all of you to remember and know, that the expectation here in this chapter is a little different than chapter 1. In chapter 1 it is like a 30,000 feet. Now you are going into detail, and here we have to look into all the reporting system like DSS and TPS, MIS, all of the things will come. And our institute has added a new area which is data analytics and business intelligence. Now they would like you to know, there is one term I would like you to remember, very important term, and I am expecting some on this. This term is called ETL, extract transform load. Please go to this section which is there, and I would request you to read through that, because this extract transform load is one question bank in itself. You can actually see the kind of questions which comes on this. You will know what I'm trying to say that. And these areas are something which we need to understand well. And that is the things on business intelligence where they would like you to know, are you able to see, this is the kind of question. There are questions which start with discuss, differentiate, and we are seeing those kind of questions being asked in examination. So differentiate between data analytics and business intelligence. That would be a good question, because what people should understand is business intelligence is a different area. There is data mining, data warehouse. Those are the terms which are there in your material. You should be aware of that. I would say awareness is very important. And for your 3 hours, when you're writing an examination, 1.5 hours for this, it's not just how much hours you have worked. I know all of you are studying very hard, and because everyone is saying now you have got extra time and all things, a lot of people have got. But whatever we can say, you need to understand that it doesn't matter how much time you have studied. What you write in that 3 hours decide it. So you need to make sure you have to convince the examiner that, boss, I know everything. Whatever you want to know, I have already aware of that. And it's not just I have muggified that, I understand. So whenever you're writing these answers, please bring out the keywords. The keywords are a very important thing. Like ETL is a keyword. Data mining is a keyword. If you use all this word in the right perspective, that gives a confidence to the examiner that students knows the area what he's being answering. And if required, underline this, no problem. No one is stopping you from underlining. You are just making it easier for the examiner to see for himself, okay, this is what the keyword is. I telling you earlier, there is a kind of a saying which is to go that after you write the keywords in the answer, you can even write, I am hungry, I didn't have lunch today. No one is bothered, but you should write the keyword first. So if we are writing the keyword, that becomes very important part and parcel of the thing. I hope you got my point. So from that perspective, we need to look into all these areas and take that forward. Okay. So that's on data analytics. Then we have XBRL, and XBRL. I see one thing which is a kind of a common thing. I hope you know XBRL India is promoted by our institute only. So there is our basic responsibility that we should always do it. XBRL is nothing but extensible business reporting language, which is just in a version of XML. All of you are doing IT filing and all thing, and there you are aware of that XML has a kind of requirement in terms of understanding how we can actually do our reportings and other things properly. So that is what is covered out here. And we should know that in XBRL, what is tagging, what is a taxonomy, these are the terminology which is there. And friends, I am telling you again, many times I am hearing it from students, so we didn't understand the technicality. It's not technical at all, friends. You go to XBRL India website, you can download the taxonomy. It's an Excel sheet. It's taxonomy, basically nothing with big directory. See, it is something what we call it up like this, that I don't know Chinese, you don't know let's say French, okay, and three of us are sitting together and we would like to communicate. So the only common language we all know it English. That's true. So can we have a common reporting language in our finance also, which means can we tag multiple financial statement? Because can you compare Infosys and Wipro, apple to apple comparison? It is not so easy, because what if Wipro has classified everything into printing and stationery, and Infosys has classified that into advertisement expenditure? Nothing wrong with that, but my point is that it's not an apple to apple comparison. So the whole concept of XBRL is, can we tag it with some kind of process and all thing, and take that forward. Okay, so that is what we are talking about from a perspective of XBRL. Okay, friends. Coming to the last point in chapter 2 is applicable regulatory and compliance requirement. Friends, I'm intentionally taking that. That was a feedback given to me that out of 2 hours, please spend 1.5 hours on EIS and half an hour on SM. But feel free if you have some specific question, because SM, most of our students find it easy. They have challenges in EIS. So I'm actually taking a little more time on EIS, and I will take a little less time on SM. So, but I would try to make sure we cover everything. But the point which is that this was a feedback given, and based on that only we are working on that. So coming to the last point on applicable regulatory and compliance requirement, there are a lot of compliance requirement which is there, and which are all from a perspective of and that is what we need to know here. So I'm just telling you one very important thing. Yeah. So what happens is here, as you can see, our module 3 or chapter 3 is the most technical module, very technical, friends. And that is the place where most of our students say, sir, this is too much, but that is very important altogether. So this module covers everything. It covers what we call is the component of automated information system, starting from applications, the systems itself, the databases, network, operating system, and all the risk and controls related to that. And I'm sure, friends, if you have gone through information systems and in component, have you noticed the different classification of what we call it as risk and controls? And there are something called, controls, information systems control, which is divided into application control and IT general controls. So there are two things which I would like to bring out to your notice. Remember one thing, and this is, I'm just trying to help you out that in examination you should not do it. The two terms, managerial control in information systems and in component, and ITGC, IT general controls, are basically the same terminology. So you should do some smart study in terms of knowing that, boss, anywhere this questions comes, I would be able to answer these questions in a easy way. I know that concept. So your clarity of concept will help you get good marks. So that is the reason you should be aware of that. And here we should know more from a perspective of a concept of SOD. Most of the people, if you ask them what is SOD, segregation of duties, they will say maker checker. That is absolutely wrong. Please see, that is the difference. I always say this, joke which is there. What is the difference between a CA student and a BCom student? And I'm sure you have heard this joke multiple times, but I'm just repeating it for the sake of this. The joke goes like this: that if I ask the same question, how many balls in 1 over? And in BCom you write this answer. There is 6 balls in 1 over. You'll get full marks. And in CA examination, even if you write there is one ball which is thrown 6 times, provided no ball has gone out of the field and no ball has been lost, and you give all the clarification and everything, then also you will be getting 50% of the marks. And then also there will be comment from the examiner that the students has not shown complete understanding of the subject. Now, this is what we all know, and that is something which you should be prepared for that. So what I'm trying to say, if you are a direct entry and you're getting into here, please remember some of the points. And many times students do that. Okay, I know this subject. No. Write and practice. Most of you read and practice. That is not the right thing. Write and practice. You'll understand how much of the data you are losing out on the way of from your mind to hand. When this things goes, a whole lot of things get lost. And then if we are expecting I knew everything, no marks came, that becomes a common challenge. Okay. So this is what we are actually talking about from a perspective of our information systems and its component. Friends, two things are my main takeaway for chapter 3, which you should all remember and you should cover it in the right perspective. First point is, this is a technical chapter. This chapter is very technical. So when you're reading it up there are expectation that you understand, okay, how does a database work? Now, many times this has been one of the question which is there in the RTP, not this RTP, but the earlier ITP. So what is a database? The question would be, database is a collection of files. Then there is a question, what is files? Files is collection of what? Records. Now, what is records? Is collection of fields. And what is fields? It's a collection of bits. And what is bits? We all know 0 and 1. So understanding at that level, the technical understanding has to be there. It's not a big deal. If you go through it once, I'm sure, I'm very, very confident that most of our students, if you actually go through the material once, you will understand, okay, this is what it is. And it's not a very tough thing. It's a very basic fundamentals. And if we do a structured reading, I'm sure, we always say for EIS, you require a, 75 hours study. That's all you require to get at least, I would say 33 marks easy. But that has to be a structured study, which we should be doing. Coming forward to this, the next one, we are talking about chapter 4, e-commerce, m-commerce, and emerging technologies. Now, of late, friends, this is something which has become very, very important. I'm seeing a lot of questions being raised on emerging technology. E-commerce, m-commerce, I would say the only thing which is being asked most of the time is, you will see some of the questions which are there. The questions are not direct one-to-one relationship. Okay, there are like not a case study based, but there are all indirect questions. So we need to have a first understanding of e-commerce architecture. So in your material, this is a very important detail. And e-commerce is emerging area. We all know about that. In future, it is possible that you need to audit that. And one of the things which I would like to share with you, and ask you how would be this kind of e-commerce will be audited with you. I have a small video which I actually kept it, a store about this one, because then you will understand the e-commerce, what is the expectation which we are having, our institute is having on this. So let me just quickly show you this small video, a very interesting one. I hope we
started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store, so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So, how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
So I just thought we have a YouTube session. We are just sharing one more screen of a YouTube. But the idea was to tell you that e-commerce of this kind of store will actually challenge the auditors. And that's the reason we are trying to get ready for this. Friends, that's the expectation of our institute. They want to know. And if you go to our institute ICA website, you say so many programs they are doing it just to make sure our members are all ready for that. So you are going to be the future. And basically, we would always like to have you catch you young and be ready for all these things. So here, friends, what happens is in this section, we need to understand that e-commerce and m-commerce, the component and architecture is very important. So most of the time, what is the big mistake our student do? We don't read the question correctly. When I say don't do it, we write the right answer for a wrong question, which means I have seen many times the question being asked is on architecture, people are writing on component. And then we think, oh, we have written very clearly, we should expect marks. I would say be very careful, friends. You guys are all very smart. You are very, very, I'm telling you as CA students, you are more smarter than our generation. But we need to be very focused on this in terms of reading the questions carefully and taking it up there. Because RCM will come every chapter. You can see from this, one of the common theme is risk and control. I'll start it from here, 1 minute, and I'll show you the common theme which is there from first chapter. Okay, you can see first chapter we have all these processes, then risk and controls. Second chapter we have risk and controls. You can see this, yes, all the risk and controls, whatever the things are there. Third chapter, okay, you have again even chapter 3, you have risk and controls. And then we have the fourth chapter, and here also we have risk and controls. Now, why I'm trying to bring it up there? Most of the time, risk basically means the definition of risk. If you go through your material, it says an event which has a potential to impact organization goal and strategy implementation in a negative way. That is what we call it as, risk. So any event which can impact an organization goal in a negative way. Now, that is a thing. If it has become positive, then it is what? It would be opportunity, not a what we call it as, not a risk. So that is what we have here from a perspective of what we call it as information systems, all of areas which is there, that risk is there. And control, the definition of controls come from SA 315. That is the reason you have a little bit of auditing also coming out here, and this is all interrelated. So SA 315 clearly says that a control is policy, procedure, practices, and organization structure put into place to help organization achieve organization goals, and all the risk should be prevented, detected, and corrected. So that is the reason there is a relationship between risk and control. So what are the risks and what are the controls? So there is a kind of one-to-one or one-to-many relationship we should be aware of. So these two parts are basically on all the business flows of the risk and control of e-commerce. You should know about how it is being done, what are the related risk and controls which are there. And we should also know one more thing is that what is the architecture of that, who are the people who are part of that and taking it forward. And here also we have a little bit of concept on regulatory requirement, compliance requirement, how to take care of them and ensure it. Last point, though they have given one line, I will say that is the most interesting areas which is there. And here we have cloud computing. Now, in cloud computing, I have a big complaint to all my dear students. Okay, my complaint is same like what happened in chapter 4. I don't know what happens. No one is reading the questions carefully before answering it up. And that is a very important requisite. Why I'm telling you this again and again, friends. What happens is if we see what we have noticed is there will be a question on like, cloud computing environment, CCE. Then there are cloud computing architecture, CCA. Then cloud computing model. These are different animals altogether. And I don't know why, but our students get confused. So when we talked about cloud computing model, PaaS, SaaS, and other things comes into picture. Then we have private cloud, public cloud, then we have hybrid cloud, community cloud. All of these concepts are there. In architecture, we have front end and back end. So these are the things which I would like you to focus on and understand it clear. See, just reading will not help, friends. We should be able to differentiate between that, because ultimately you guys are, are taking a course of chart accountant, and we cannot be just blindly saying anything. We have to understand it well and take that forward. Okay, so this is your chapter 4, that we start with cloud computing environment. Then we have a concept of green computing. All of you know what is green computing. When all your computers are of green color, right? It is green computing, isn't it? No, no, just joking out there. Green computing is basically a kind of a process by which we'd like to have more environmental friendly, process of doing it. Like today I just sold one of my tablet in Cashify. I got just $1,000. It's okay, but the point is that the reason I actually did was, if the laptop, if that tablet is lying, I bought this tablet something around in 2011. If I still keep this tablet with me, it will be lying it. And I don't know if you know this or not, in all this tablet, we have this lithium batteries. Lithium batteries are dangerous. If you actually, lie it up and put it on the ground or something, it will actually contaminate the groundwaters, and it can actually make that one area really, really bad. So you should have a safe disposal of all your electronic waste and all things. So in green computing, we talk about what kind of devices you are buying, how you're keeping track of them, what are the devices you are, like, are they 5-star devices, like energy efficient? Are we switching down the monitors? You have seen this mail coming to you many times. Don't print the mail. This is more of practices which are there. So to ensure it up, it's more environmental friendly, because there is a lot of load which goes on to the environment. The carbon footprint is very high of all these companies, and that is what we would like to take care of that. Okay, so that is the point in this. And then we have one more concept called BYOD. So I would say point number 4. Okay, though it is one line item, there are a lot of content which is there, and you should be very sure that you understand it well before you basically go into that. Don't take it lightly. Okay, don't take this area lightly. There are a lot of questions being framed. Cloud computing is really, really one very important areas, and that is the area where a lot of questions are coming from. And I would request you to have a good understanding of all these things. Okay, then coming back, we have also one more thing which we all are aware of. What are the things which we can think of here? This is what we call as BYOD, bring your own device, which is nothing but a way of saying that how can I have happy employees? I don't believe in happy employees, but I can tell you one thing which is very interesting out here, that they would like you to know one very important thing, that is it a OPEX versus CAPEX model? Instead of paying one shot and buying laptops for or desktops for my people, can I give them a monthly payment and just ask them to buy whatever they like? It can be for mobile and all thing. And then in the material, now you see this term, emerging technology, it is risk and controls. Now that is one thing which you should focus on. Why I say that? They have given what are the risk of cloud computing. They have given the risk which is there for BYOD. BYOD, there is a big risk. There are four different kind of risk which is mentioned. And I hope you know one thumb rule. Wherever there are 3 or 4 option of any section, it is a potential objective type question. Remember this thumb rule, friend. If there is one area where there are 3 or 4 options, or there is a picture, any graph or any things, these are potential questions for MCQs. So you should be very, very sure. There is a lot of MCQ floating around in the market, but I would suggest you should be very careful that whenever you're reading through the material and you find, oh, there are 4 options, this is a potential MCQ question. I was also a CA student, and when we are a CU student, we used to keep, photocopy of every notes of every faculty. And that is always a kind of, a way of us to feel good that we have the, photocopy of all the notes. Whether we study or not, that is not important, but we should have the photocopy. Don't do that. Please focus on covering all this content in terms of doing it. Okay, the last but not least, there is a term which is IoT, Internet of Things, and what we call is now more devices are being connected. So there is a term like what we call it as, Web 3.0. So that is the section which is there in the emerging technologies. Please go through that area very, very carefully. I would request you, I am expecting some questions on this, and you should be very much aware of these things. Many times, if you go through the material, think, oh, I was not even aware this has been covered, but that has been covered. Don't go to the shortcut and cover it up only from that perspective. So this is all which has been covered in chapter 4. And the last one is core banking system. Now, core banking system, friends, I would tell you, this is a very interesting thing. If you see in the old scheme, this was only around 4 pages. Now we have a 60 pages, 70 pages chapter, which is core banking system. And this is now covering a lot more than what we can think of. Okay, so what is being covered out here? Let's try to see that. Okay, so we have here the component and architecture of core banking system. So before that, let me explain you what is this core banking system which is there. Think of this as an ERP for the banks. Banks require a different, banking is a very different thing. Okay, I'm sure many of you have gone for bank audit. Was it a fun thing or not? Bank audits are always fun thing. If you are during your articleship, if you're going for a bank audit, this is like really good. The treatment you get is like, I can tell you, just like your first love, you will never forget your first bank audit. I remember my first bank audit. This was actually Corporation Bank during my articleship, and a place, near Shivni, which was near Shiboga. And we went there. So you remember it because the treatment you get is like better treatment than what you get in your marriage. They will actually treat you with all this coconut water and all the things. This is a very interesting thing. But what we should understand is banking is one area where chartered accountants are very much involved, and it's very important for us to understand that. There are, more importantly, many a times students don't know about the terminology. Like, what is CASA? We all know Kannadali CASA is like money, but here current account and saving account, and why it is important, we should be knowing that, right? So from that perspective, we need to have a good understanding of what we call it as that. Are we getting a clear understanding of all these things, the component and architecture of core banking systems? So how it is being made. So in the material, they have taken a lot of images from, I would say, Finacle, which is good for us for our material, because it gives us a good understanding and tells us, okay, this is the architecture, because multiple part would be there. Wholesale banking, retail banking, what are the different things which happens in bank, in how the architecture is built, one database for everything. So that is that. And what are the risk and control? Again, I hope you're seeing the common thread all across all the chapters. We have, friends, what we call it as the risk and controls which are there. How should we deal with them? What are the key things we need to understand? Everything is coming as part of that understanding. So we have to have a good understanding in terms of how we are dealing with this, what are the key things which we should be aware of, and ensure that we get to know the complete core modules and other things which are there. The second one, as I told you, is the core banking of modules and the business process flow. So I have, this chapter is being, or this module has been told as EIS. The reason is very importantly there. They are telling that, boss, we should have a good understanding of business processes as well as technology. So there is a term which has been given in your material. I'm not sure if you've gone through it. It is called PPT, people, process, technology. So all the three things, once we understand, we can do a good understanding of what we call it as EIS. Now, as I was telling you, there are many topics which has been repeated. In fact, the other day, one of my student has actually shared with me, they did a complete analysis of how much topic has been duplicated in the material. So you should be thankful to our institute. We have more than around 54 pages which are like, the content is duplicate, like ITGC, data analytics and other related areas. So this will actually help you in terms of being better. It's like we have, you can take that book of our institute and say, okay, out of that 56 pages are going to be duplicate. So it means you can reduce it by that much, and very less amount of study we have to do in the content which is there, friends. Okay. Moving to the third point here, we need to discuss about reporting systems and MIS. So reporting system and MIS, data analytics and business intelligence. I hope you remember we have already talked about data analytics and business intelligence there. But here the focus is more from banking perspective. What are the value add we can bring? What is, there is a term which is there, I'm sure you've gone through it. There's Basel II and Basel III norms, which is a requirement. And the way it has been put into the material, they have just given one section out there. Okay, this is the things. And we have regulatory requirement, what are the SLR and other things, we should be aware of that. So that is what it is there in the banking system. Okay. So friends, I would like to tell you that if you go through this whole material, one thing I am actually with you, that the objective is to understand technology-enabled information system and their impact on enterprise-wide processes. And you can underline the word risk and control, because you have seen all the 5 main modules which are there. Everywhere we are having coverage on risk and controls, and there is compliance requirement. There is how the process works and a good understanding of that. So starting from automated business processes, financial accounting system, information systems and component, e-commerce and emerging technologies, as well as your core banking system. Okay. So this is what is there. Okay. This is what we need to look into. Okay. So that is point number 1. Then comes, let us now go to the, I'm just having with me the RTP of this one. Okay. So what is this there in the RTP here? So we have what we call it as some of the questions which are there. MCQ, I will not go so much of detail, but one thing which I'm just very sure and I would like to do is, you see the questions which are coming. All the questions are case scenario questions, which means there will be one big question which will be there. And I hope you have done a calculation of this. This is where I actually want my students to be very careful. See, you have got 100 marks. And how much time you have for this 100 marks? So you have actually around totally 3 hours, which is 180 minutes, right? So on an average, you have only 1.8 minute per marks. So we need to make sure we understand it well. So you will always have a case scenario questions, and they are becoming more and more common across the thing. So if you see, they will try to match it up with something of what you have learned. So which means it becomes very important for all of us to have a clear understanding of the complete subject. If you don't know the complete subject and you have done pick up, it's like pick up, some cheaty, and then you've studied, okay, this I'll study, this will come, maybe this will come. Then we are going to be in a little bit of problematic thing. So I'm not going to each of the questions. There are some interesting questions which I'll do. And they have talked about the terms like which software, which food chain decided to buy to help their customer, and online falls under which following technology. So is it data mining? Is it artificial intelligence? And one thing which I want to tell you in MCQ, which is a very important thing, especially in case of our EIS. You take any MCQ questions, you will find two things. Out of the four options, two you can just eliminate. Okay, the other two are the places where they will have the confusion. This is the reason how the questions are framed. This is the instruction given to what we call it as our user, that this is how you need to do this and take that forward. Okay, so we need to be very careful in terms of dealing with this in getting it up there. So they have actually given some questions on, let's say, which of them will be present predefined processes. So if you have a good understanding of flowchart, you know that, okay, predefined processes may be C. So we should have a clear understanding of which symbol will be used in which option. Okay, and then they have talked about the data management team of the students or food chain was working to implement changes in database design of its billing software. So which of the following which can carry out the routine maintenance and monitor this task? Now this question is coming from SOD. If you don't understand the segregation of duties, you will not be able to answer this question. So we have to have a complete understanding. And as I told you, this, from privacy perspective, IT Act 2000, see this question, friends. Management of suite of store has shown its concern that would have happened if employee dishonestly make use of personal information of the customer, which of the IT Act section will have to deal with. That is 43A. So like that, friends, it becomes very important that we have a clear understanding on each of this area. Coming to this last question, which is more on MIS report and other things. So they have talked about that in a kind of generic way and taken it forward. So these are the points which I just thought I will share with you on the MCQ thing. But most important, go by the rule of elimination. I hope all of you know what is the rule of elimination. So that is the best way of actually getting the right answer. You go eliminating the wrong answer. If you keep on eliminating the wrong answer, you will reach to the right answer. So unless you do this elimination, you will not reach to the right answer, friends. Okay. So what is this, points which we should know? That I will go by eliminating the wrong answer so that I know which is the right answer. Now we have descriptive questions. So we start with automated business processes. I will talk about that. And if you know, because this is the first thing, and I just want you to see the question, friend. Just see the question yourself. ERM frameworks identify risk and opportunities to protect the business and create value for stakeholders, including owner, customer, regulator, society overall, which is all stakeholder. Briefly explain all the component of ERM framework. So as we discuss, enterprise risk management is being covered in automated business processes. And what are the things which are there in enterprise risk management? You have to explain the components. Now, you have to give the right reference. You cannot just take this other everything. In respect to this question, you have to bring it out and take that forward. Okay. Coming to question number 7, they have talked about some cashback offers and they have asked you to make a what? Make a proper flowchart, draw a flowchart. Now, I have a very important things which I would like to tell you from flowcharts. Friends, how many of you, I'm not sure, I'm just sharing it with you right now, have, okay, let me just show it to you so that you are all on the same page. So our institute has one very interesting publication on the flowchart. Okay. And this one is, just to give me a moment. This was actually a little old thing, but I would request you all that if you get a chance, please go through this flowchart suggested. There are like whatever flowchart has come in the last few attempts, we have it covered. I'm just searching. I'm not able to. Maybe I'll share it up with you separately after this in the link. I'll send the link and the YouTube channel so that you can actually download it from there. And I would say this is really, very important. Okay, it's here. I'll just show it to you right now. Just give me a moment. Okay. These are the flow chart. It's actually suggested flow chart stuff, but you can see it right now here. This is actually a publication by Institute, but it was done for ITSM. Every examination flowchart which has come for 8 marks, May 2014, what came in November 2014, all the questions are there. And whatever flowchart can come in examination, I would say there are more than, we have around 25 flowcharts are there. Yeah, you can actually go through it and it will be very, very helpful. I would like to share it up. I'll maybe send a link later, and you can actually go through it. I'll just close this. Sorry, just give me a moment. So that is, the flow chart would be actually very helpful. And my request to you would be that as much as possible, please do use this, because that will give you a complete understanding of this area and you would be very confident. A couple of points which I would like to give it on flowcharts, and I'm just sharing my screen to show and write it down, that this is something you cannot ignore. Very, very important VVIP points are there, and this VVIP points are like this. Point number 1 in flowchart, which I always tell my students, is have introduction of the flowchart. See, if the flowchart question, I'm sorry for the bad handwriting again, if the question is for, let's say, 8 marks, the actual flowchart which you are making, start, CAWL, and abbreviation has to be given. It is clear or working location. Whatever task is there, you put it, stop. If you put this much, you have around 1 marks in your pocket. Can you see the arrow? Arrows are very important. Start, clear all working location, stop. This gives you 1 or 1.5 marks. If you want to get other marks, so you should give your introduction. What is the flowchart? Assumptions. If you have any assumptions, please do put your assumptions and then make the flowcharts. And if you want, you can make the a sample flowchart first in the rough and then bring it out there. And abbreviation, if you are using, please give the full form of abbreviation. As I told you, many people write CAWL, which means clear all working location. We know that, but it is always good to give a complete detailed abbreviation of this. Okay, so please keep that in mind and ensure it up that we don't leave marks on the table. It's like not leaving anything on the platter. We should keep everything. We should get it properly with us, and that is the thing. So this is the second thing. And third thing which is there is, I told you, pencil has not to be used, and try to make sure you get the flowchart samples which I've shared with you, and this is suggested bank of all the flowchart which you can actually use, and it will be very helpful for you in terms of scoring marks in examination. Okay. Moving forward, this is on the second area is chapter 2, the financial and accounting system. You can see again all of them are coming like a small case study kind of question. So they're asking, it doesn't have its own IT structure. They would like to outsource it to IT function on cloud-based. So characteristic of cloud-based application. Now, don't get confused between this chapter and chapter 4, because here they are asking for the characteristic of cloud-based system. There are in-house and cloud-based system are there, and that is how you have to present it up. And please make sure the word is enlist, which means you have to list down all the characteristics. So please read the questions carefully when you are answering it up. Also, they have given the functional model of ERP, the control of business flow in an organization that facilitate coordination, monitoring, and optimization of all process thing. Elaborate on the key feature of this model, which means in an organization, how you can have controlling, monitoring, and optimizing of processes, like our costing modules and all things. What are the things which you can do and take that forward? Then come our chapter 3. So some questions from chapter 3, information systems and component. So they are saying there is data warehouse being used to store data from all the things. what are the benefit of data warehouse? Now, I hope you know the term data warehouse in database. See, where do I use a data warehouse? When I'm actually a person, let's say I have a shop, all my fast moving item, I'll keep it where? I'll keep it in my main shop. But all the slow moving item, where do I keep? I keep it in my warehouse. So similarly, all my current data, like all of you do this, right? We'll keep the current data of Tally in Tally, but all the old data, we would actually keep it, like we'll break the company or split the company, and we will move it to maybe other places so that it doesn't slow down the processing. So same thing is being done in data warehouse. So what we do is we basically try to ensure that we have a centralized data warehouse where all the non-current data is clean. So we do ETL, extract, transform, and load. We extract it from the system, transform it, and then load it into the system. Okay. Then comes our information system, logical access. How do you ensure all the logical access are proper or not? So we have logical access control, physical access control. These are all the managerial control which are there, and you should be knowing that. So this is something which is very important. Logical access means if I'm accessing my user ID password, these are all logical access. So you should also know the technical exposure, what can go wrong. There can be a virus attack. There could be someone trying to do a kind of man in the middle technique. All these techniques have been told there. So we have to discuss. Discuss means we have to bring it up and put one by one all the points and take that forward. Okay. Then comes, friends, chapter 4. Now, chapter 4 is on e-commerce, m-commerce, and emerging technologies. So they have actually given even digital payment is there, and you can see this is important because you have to convince Nisha about same on advantages and disadvantages of digital payment. And what are the points she should prepare? So I really like the kind of questions being asked because this is real life questions and all things. So they have talked about digital payments, and we all know what are the different types of digital payment, IMPS, UPI, and all the things. We have to talk about advantage and disadvantage because there are also risk, and the amount of frauds which are happening, friends, are also very high. Moving forward, we have questions on BYOD. I told you BYOD is something which is very close to our institute heart. They keep on asking these questions, and you should be able to answer it up, giving the classification of the different. There are 4 main areas, and that has to be classified. And under each area, you have to write the key points which are there. Okay. The last chapter, friends, is what we call as the core banking system. And core banking system is on. They have talked about there is a cooperative bank, and I'm thinking there will be a question on this because there is a change on cooperative bank structure now. RBI Act has been amended, so maybe it's possible something can come on this. What are the various stages involved in deployment and implementation of CBS? So how do you deploy? Phase 1, phase 2, what are the stages which is there? We have to bring it up there. And the last one is, now this is the difference which I would like to do that. So I told you there are 2 sections which are very important in IT Act. Section 43A for SPDI, and section 43, because all the penalty and compensation for damages of computer system comes from 43. So there have been a lot of talks of what you can do, what you cannot do. A list of things are there. Like, I don't know how many of you are aware of that, but next time one of your friends take out your mobile phone without your permission, do you know that it's actually an offense under section 43? You can actually send him for free boarding and lodging for at least how much? 2 years, and it may be up to 3 lakhs or both, depending on the judge's verdict. So same thing happens out here. So what is the point which we should remember? That there are section 43 where all the offenses are listed, but the punishment is given in section 66. And section 43A is a very important section from a perspective of privacy. Okay. So friends, this is what I thought I will cover for you. They have given all the details which is there, and you can actually go through it at a leisure which is there, but this is what we should be aware of. So just to summarize on this chapter or in this EIS, couple of things which we should know. Okay, let me just, so these are the 5 chapters, and friends, I know the content wide it is too much, but I am sure all of our hardworking students will be able to cover it up. Sorry. Start with automated business processes. We have automated business processes, which covers all the process, benefit, risk, and controls. We have all the diagrammatic presentation. Flowchart is one area we should be clear about. and other areas. Then we have financial and accounting systems, information systems and its component, e-commerce, m-commerce, and emerging technologies, and last but not least, core banking system. So this is what we have to cover as part of our enterprise information system. Now let me try to go to the second part, which is our SM. Okay, let me just take some of the questions on strategy management. Now, 7B, if you see the paper, I think you can all see this one, yes. In 7B, also, we have something very interesting. Strategic management, as a name itself suggests, the idea is that ultimately, chartered accountants are coming out from the back office to the front office. I was very impressed to know, that BSE 500 companies, Bombay Stock Exchange 500 companies, there are close to around 40 companies where the CEOs are chartered accountants. And I'm sure you are seeing a lot of CEOs as chartered accountant who are doing it up there. So the idea is, do we should know fundamentals of strategic management or not? That is going to be important areas altogether. And they want to have a complete understanding of the concept and techniques of strategic management. And as I name suggests, strategic is a word which is used, friends, mostly in military. Strategic approach. Strategic is like, what is your strategy? Strategy is basically more from coming at top level, what we would like to know. Okay, how you are doing it. What are the key things which we should be knowing when we are trying to work it forward? Okay, so from that perspective, strategic management has a very important thing. So if you see the complete content of, we have close to around 8 chapters. Now, if I have to cover this up, a couple of things which I would suggest you to go through it in detail is the flow, how it has been done. Starting from the introduction of strategic management, what it is, what are the business strategy, what are the levels in organization, and how do we do it in strategic management in government and not-for-profit organization, because ultimately every organization needs to have a strategic management. So that is something which is covered in our first content. See, the change from our old scheme in this one is, our institute has made it in capsules, 8 capsules. I would use the word capsules because they have tried to make sure that we don't give a too much of content one side. Because if you see the earlier material, dynamics of competitive strategy was part of chapter 1 only, but now that has been separated because they would like us to understand very clearly that no, you need to take one at a time. So first you start with understanding business policies, understanding the meaning and nature of strategic management and taking it forward. Then you go to the dynamics of competitive strategy. So what is this dynamics of competitive strategy, friends? We are talking about areas like, what we call it as more from a perspective of that how are your competitive landscape you're doing, because many times competition decide how you have to deal with that, right? And have you done a strategic analysis of that areas? And there are some very interesting terms like SWOT analysis, internal, external. What is the competitive advantage you have? And the most important topic, or I would say subject line, I think, is core competence, because this was given by Professor Prahlad. And Professor Prahlad says that every organization should focus on what is their core competency. They should not do anything which comes to their mind, and should do, like, for example, Wipro has 300 plus buses. So can Wipro start travel agencies? They can if they want to, but that is not their core competency. So they should focus on core competency. Or take example of Airtel, friends. Airtel is a very interesting example, because what we call it as Airtel is the most outsourced company. What they do is, they said our core competency is marketing, finance, and execution. Rest of the whole thing will basically outsource. So that is the kind of competing which is there. It's a competitive strategy also, that I will keep it very lightweight and all thing, and take that forward. So the first 2 chapters covers dynamics of competitive strategy and what is there. Then the third chapter is on strategic planning and strategy formulation. And here we have this interesting thing. I really like this chapter because there are a lot of talks about how do you make your vision, mission, and objective. And there is a difference between, this is a kind of question also come, And what is the difference between a mission and vision? Now, like for example, if you know, uh, Mahindra and Mahindra had actually in 2015 come out with a mission called Mission 2020. They wanted to become a $20 billion enterprise by 2020, and that's how they would like to achieve it. What are the key things they would like to know? They wanted to understand that and take that forward. Then we have something on strategy formulation. What are the different types of strategy and how do you formulate it? Is that a kind of way? And there we have, friends, corporate level strategies, and which is more on business level strategies. And corporate level strategies, as I told, it is more of the nature of corporate strategy, how you're doing it, like, from a perspective of the whole organization and how we are taking that forward. And there are some alternative levels, which is that would you like to be an organization which wants stability? You be like an organization which will go for expansion, rapid expansion? Like, for example, today, I don't know how, which box would you like to put Reliance as? They are into growth mode or they are on stability mode? They are into growth and expansion mode. And they're also doing a mix of business combination, merger and acquisition also. So it is a strategic level. They can grow organically, they can grow inorganically, and they are trying to see all of that as a way of dealing with that. There are other approach, like, there can be a strategic alliances. Think of Harley Davidson is actually moving out of India, and they have done a strategic alliance with whom? With Hero Motors. Now they know that they would like to be in Indian market, but they can't contain it. So why don't we do it ourselves instead of being a strategic alliance? So it's basically going out there. There are also, I'm sorry, retrenchment and turnaround, friends. Retrenchment and turnaround, as you are all aware of, it is whether I would like to take this in terms of closing down some businesses. Like, if you remember, there was something called as L&T Cements, Larsen and Toubro. But then they sold it to ACC because they thought there's no way of being a cement company when there is a lot of competition. There was not their core competency. They wanted to be in execution of big projects. That was the focus they were actually looking at. Okay, then comes combination of either things. So now organizations had at corporate level come out with multiple strategies. Now this is very important, friends. So let me give you an example. If I take Tata and Reliance, which one do you think is more aggressive? We all know it's going to be Reliance. Now the same thing which is there is that every organization has a character, and that characters comes out from knowing their strategic alternatives, which is there at the corporate level. And then we have business level strategies, which is, you have now all this Michael Porter's generic strategies. We have concept like cow, dog, star, and all the things will be coming. So which are the competitive strategy, best cost provider strategy? So different kind of strategy which can be used at business level. So you have starting with corporate level, then business level, and then we go to the functional level strategies. So, for marketing strategy, how does it happen? Financial strategy. There is a very interesting example of SpiceJet. I'm not sure how many of you know that, but SpiceJet at one point of time, before it was under Sun Group, they did a very interesting thing, friends. I'm sure you have gone through your material and learn about that. That what they did is they, instead of buying the the oil for fuel, aviation fuel from India, they started importing it. So if you import the thing and use for your own consumption, you don't have to pay a lot of duties which are supposed to be paid, and they saved a lot of money into that. So there are financial strategies also of organization to make business more better. There can be operational strategies. There are human resource strategies, like how organization do. I'll give you one example. Many times I used to think when I was working in Infosys that, oh, why should we have so many people on bench? Can't we have only what we require, and we should not have bench? Bench is like people who are without any project. They're enjoying their coffee at office, but they are there. But then once I went into the senior management, I understand the whole thing of human resource strategy. See, if I get a big project now, I can't get people immediately and hire them and train them. So I should have a healthy bench of 5 to 10% of my people who are always not doing any project, so that any project comes, I should be able to do that. So these are all the functional level strategies which are there. Coming to on point number chapter 7, this is all about the organizations of strategic leadership. How should you do that? Your concept of SBU is very important, strategic business unit, and how do the culture of an organization is safe. So what is entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship? Entrepreneurship, as we all know, when you go out and start off your own. Most of the chartered accountant, all of you, will become entrepreneur. And there is also within the organization, can we have entrepreneurship, which is nothing but you try to do something of the own in the organization and try to see how it can be worked out. Okay, so that is on that. And the last one, or chapter 8, is all about the controls and strategy implementation. So we have concept like BPR. BPR is a very important thing. And benchmarking, all of you know, when we take a pen and mark on the bench, that is benchmarking. I'm joking, is nothing like that. But what I want to tell you here is benchmarking is like, setting up a standard and trying to see how we are doing to that. And business process reengineering, this one word is very important. It is radical change in the process, radical change. And I'm not sure how many of you have watched a movie or read a book called The Founders. It is about McDonald's. And you understand that how the business process re-engineered, that earlier a burger used to take around 10 minutes to make, and they made it less than 1 minute. And that was a kind of thing. And we have strategy audit, how are the strategy being done and all things. So this is all the implementation and controls which we need to do. And very important point here would be BPR. Okay, so I'm sorry I'm going a little slow on this, but I just wanted to cover all of this point for you, friends, so that we are there. Now we'll go into the, our, so just a minute, we'll just cover that. Let me go to the RTP and show it to the questions to you, so we are all there on the same page. I'm sorry, this is already been covered. We have discussed all the points, if you're aware of that. So we'll directly go into strategic management and try to see the questions answered there. So here we go. And here also we have, you can see, this is what I like, the kind of questions to read it, it will take you a lot of time also. Okay? And we have to be sure that we understand the concept in detail. And we will take that forward. Okay, so here there is multiple type questions which are there, and I already told you that most of the time they will be asking concept of a case scenario which is there, and a big case has been given, and I told you you have 1.8 minutes per question. Now if you're reading a case scenario like this, it will take a lot of time and you have to underline a lot of points and other things. But here they will ask the question on connect the limited into a saturated market of smartphones. So is it like put the below stop in the correct sequence? What should they do first? Should they identify the competitors, understand the competitors, determine the strength and weakness of that, and put the information gathered together? What would be the right sequence? So that is the kind of questions which is being asked there. And we will be able to do this if we actually have a good understanding on terms of doing it. I'll not go into these questions because most of the things are aware, you guys are aware of that. But the idea is to know that this is the kind of questions which will be coming out there. Moving to question number 2 onwards. Okay, from here we'll try to go. This are more of, yes. So the first question on introduction to strategic management, if you see, it is asking that Mr. Ramesh Sharma has 15 stores selling consumer durables in Delhi region, and 4 of the stores were open in last 3 years, and he believes in managing strategically. So he, as a person who's a strategic management guy, and enjoyed significant sales of refrigerator, television, and washing machine and other thing till 4 years back. And with more and more online store, we have e-commerce, we have already covered, the sale of store has come down by about 70% in 4 years. So you have to analyze this in light of limitation of strategic management. Now, friends, this is a very classy question. I really like it because they have given it up. You have to put down all your points of understanding on strategic management, why it is limitation is there. Though you are doing strategy, there is competition which is coming, and the competition have their own strategy. So you should have a dynamic approach towards that. So that is the reason the second question which comes, can you see this one? strategy is partly proactive and partly reactive. This is the same question which is coming from the first one, because you can't just say, this is my strategy and I'm just going with this. No, there is going to be an approach which you have to take care of that. And it can be partly proactive and partly reactive, which means first you will be thinking, oh, this is how we are going to do that. But competition is also not going to sit idle. So we have to have reaction to that point also. There, if they comes up, let's say I'm going for the strategy of what we call as loss leader, which means one of my product I'll sell at loss to ensure that everything is there. It's possible that the competition will also come out. It's a very dynamic world, and then we have to be sure about this in terms of dealing with that. So that is what we have to know, friends, and take that forward in the right perspective. I hope you got my point. Then comes chapter 2 question, dynamics of competitive strategy. And this is again on ADL metrics, which is on competitive position of the firm, how they are doing it, how they are taking care of that. That is the short notes on ADL metrics, which you have to write. And the point number 1 is on leading retail chain on account of ability to operate its business at low cost. So they are actually, cost effective or cost leader kind of thing, who just goes to give Walmart kind of approach they're doing. And the retail chain to aim further the top position in retail industries. And the chief executive of the retail chain is the view that to achieve the goal, they should focus on lowering the cost of procurement of products, highlight and explain the core competence of retail chain. That's a very good question, friend. Just see this. Here you can take the example of Walmart. I think you know this one very interesting example. Walmart just did one change. They said, if you are supplying us toothpaste, you don't give it us in packed. Carton packs are there. We don't want the carton packs. They said, okay, how much saving can you give us? We don't want the carton pack. How much cost reduction you can do? They said, okay, we'll do a cost reduction of, like, say 50 cents, which is in our INR, it would be around 40, let's say 50 cent would be around 30 rupees kind of thing. Okay, very big number. And that 50 cents gave them a kind of a saving, yearly saving of millions, because they do a kind of a mass production of that. So that is the dynamic of the competitive strategies which we need to look into. Chapter 3, strategic management process. Here there's again, each of the thing you will see, our institute is focusing more on case or simple cases instead of going direct questions. So just like you can see that we are not having, what is the strategic decision making? How does it happen? What are the tasks to be done? So that is one kind of question. But if you notice the other question which is there, the strategic management process, that there is Mr. Raj was hired as CEO and he wants to launch a feel-good brand of cosmetics. And the XYZ Limited wishes to enrich the life of people. They want to do that. And you have to draft the vision and mission statement, which may be formulated. This is very interesting. It's like you are actually playing the role of someone in the organization who is doing that, and they would like to have your input on that. Corporate level strategies, chapter 4, which is more from how a corporate can actually do that. So they have actually given a complete strategy. They plan to diversify into newer business area along with that thing. What kind of this is? This is expansion. So Nebula is trying to do that, and we need to look into that. And what is this, divestment strategy? Basically, when I'm actually trying to come out of some of the investment which is done, and when it's adapted. So there is a very interesting case study for that. General Electric, if you are aware of, they said either we should be number 1 or number 2 in the business of which we are in, because GE was into multiple. Otherwise, we'll just exit that thing. Even if we are making money, we will not be there in a business where we are not number 1 and number 2. So that's a kind of a divestment strategy which can be taken. And we know right now even government is taking that in terms of divesting their stake into, because government business is not to be in the business. They are just government. They should do governance, right? Business level strategy, they have given some concept on luxury jet. So there is a big business for luxury jet? Possible during this, I'm not sure. I think what we are seeing right now post COVID era, it is possible. We may have a business jet kind of thing which will come into picture. And that is something which we need to look into. So we need to, comment on that from a Michael Porter's general strategy which are there. And this distinguishing between cost leadership and differentiating strategies. That's very interesting question, because cost leadership always talks about, I am the cheapest. But differentiation strategy is trying to say that, oh, I'm not the lowest, but I'm different. Like, for example, I don't know how many of you have been to one of the restaurant called Taja Tindi in Bangalore. I'm just giving them name. They're getting a few free advertisement. But the point what I'm trying to say is Taja Tindi has a very interesting concept. And what they do is they focus on hygiene. That is their differentiating strategy. So they are not telling that we are the best tasty idlis or vadas out here, but they are telling very clearly that we are the most hygienic prepared, food out there. So that's a kind of differentiating strategy which is out there. You have to explain it up with, if you give examples also, it is good, point, friends. You should give something which is that shows your, understanding of the subject. And there's a lot of subjective things which are there in, strategic management. So you should be very clear about that. Functional level strategy. So they have asked about product promotion strategy adopted by Mr. Verma, who is actually selling some LED fans and all things at public places. So what are the way they can do that? How they can make sure? So it will basically, identify that and explain the promotion strategy, what they are trying to do it. How does it map to the process which has been told? And it is very important to have a good understanding of functional level strategy. You guys are going to be future CFOs and CEOs. So don't you think it is something which we should be all aware of? Okay. Then comes, friends, our organization and strategic leadership. So organization and strategic leadership, as I told you, it is all about making sure what kind of organization structure is there. So they have actually given about one of the AI tool being used to digital lead transformation in the business process. What are the role being specialist manager are playing, how that can be done, and how we are taking care of that. So what is the structure we are trying to go for? The different kind of strategic leadership, how we are trying to bring it up, those are kind of things. And I really, think this question number 20 is a really interesting question. Transformational and transactional leaders. So this is a very interesting thing. Transactional leaders are basically more worried about what is the task on hand, what we are doing. That's all, run it more efficiently and all things. We require them also. But there are transformational leaders who change, who see what are the, inefficiency in the process, how we can actually take that forward, and then try to see how we can work towards this. Then, friends, let's go to the last chapter out here, chapter 8, which is all about what are the controls, how do you audit a strategy audit. This is another area we should add to our big list of work which we are doing. And when we call about strategy audit, this is something very interesting. So you should know that Richard Rumelt has given a criteria for a strategy audit. How do we do this evaluation? How you have done, like what was the strategy you made and what was the gap? So this was the strategy. Sitting in the boardroom, you made it. But when you implemented it, how it works it out there. That's something which we need to take care of that. And that is something which comes in our strategy control. And from a strategy implementation, there are patterns of behavior, which is given by Kelman. And Kelman's, patterns of behavior are very important, which basically gives you a kind of thing how you're trying to work on this process and take that forward. So friends, this is because of, I was just trying to see the watch because I was told I should finish by, it's already 6:45. So I just thought I'll cover it very fast. I'll just try to summarize what we discussed today in a little simple way. So friends, we started with understanding that enterprise information system and strategic management, a very important chapter or important subject for us. It's a scoring subject, friends. I'm telling you, really scoring. Though it is little, a lot of topics are there, so it's actually very large. But it is a good scoring subject which is there. And I would tell you that you should focus on the material which is there from Institute, ensure it up, go through it in detail, start with that. So I would say, if I have to actually put it a kind of a joint timing for what we should be, how you should be preparing for that, we have very less time left. But I'm sure you have already done your first, reading and second reading. But one thing which I would like to do is this RTP we have already discussed. I would request you if you can write and what I call it as practice them. Yes. And when I say write and practice, the idea is very important that you should know how you are presenting the answer. You are I'm again and again telling this point, you are very good in remembering it. This is one of the biggest thing we always see with all our students. You are all very smart people, you know the thing, but when you start working on or presenting it, that is the time which is required. You know, having in the mind and putting on a paper, there is a big difference between them. So couple of last key points which I would like to tell you is, first and foremost, let me put it here. Okay, sorry, let me take a brush. Okay, so the first point is that, friends, we need to actually focus on this in terms of this subject. You would require to have reading from the book, your reading material. You have suggested, I have already mentioned you the suggested, and RTPs. And I request you, if you can actually cover the last 4 attempts RTPs also, it will be very useful for you. Don't take RTPs on the face value of this attempt. This attempt anyway you have to do it, but the last 4 attempts RTP, please download it up and try to do it. Second, write and practice. It may be boring, but it is going to help you. You know, writing it on a examination mode, 3 hours, that I want to write these things, you will understand what are the shortcomings, and it will help us in terms of, we still have some time. So I am 1 month is there, so you can actually do it. And third key points, remember the basic fundamentals. Remember the basics. If you remember the basics and work on that, there is not going to be any problem. So my request to you would be, reading material suggested RTP, write and practice, and remember the basic, which means understanding. My point is on concepts. Your concepts are clear, you are not going to have any problem. So you should not just mugify. Make sure your concepts are clear, and I'm 110% sure all of you would come out with flying colors, and we'll actually see all of you as our CA final students, all of you there, and you would also be enjoying this whole journey of going through it. So that's all from my side, friends. I hope it was useful. I know we have to cover a lot of content out here, and this is something which we should all know. Okay, so over to you, Farinder sir.
Hi, sir. So, as you already told, like so many students will be facing difficulty in scoring in this paper, but 100% with your tips, value addition, and students will definitely make it convert this into threat into opportunity, and they will also by following your tips, they will also make this subject as scoring. So, my dear students, please follow whatever sir has told. And I know, sir, only few students attended live, but at the same time, students will be having their difficulties. So only
Yes,
1 month
today is the last date.
for exam.
Everyone is busy. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes,
So
right.
again, office also everywhere. But they will be this month. They will be watching the sessions. So and also in future
Yes,
also like RTP discussion how it is helpful. So 100% it will be value addition for the students in future also.
right.
And thank you so much. Uh, for your valuable time on behalf of Sikasa and Bangalore branch. Thank you so much, sir, once again.
Pleasure, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. It was a pleasure.